Is Congressman Tom Malinowski, who sits on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. He was in the room during the ambassador's testimony today. Congressman, thanks so much for being with us. The ambassador testified in her opening statement that there had been what she called a concerted campaign against her, and that the president wanted her removed because of, quote, unfounded and false claims about her. I know there's only so much you can say. I'm wondering, in your opinion, was she forthcoming? Is there anything you can say about that?
She was very forthcoming. And look, the first thing I would say is that it's really significant that she was there. What her presence says is that it is not only necessary to obey legally binding subpoenas, but it is possible if you are a career Foreign Service officer or civil servant in this government, it is possible, despite the efforts of this White House, to stop career employees from speaking to the Congress. So that's an important message. She's setting an example for everybody else. On the substance, I can't talk about what she said, but look, we already know a great deal. And so just from what we publicly know, what's clear to me is that this was an ambassador of great integrity who was advancing our official policy in Ukraine of fighting corruption. And there were a bunch of crooked Ukrainians who wanted to get her out of the way because she was threatening them. And at the same time, we had Rudy Giuliani advancing a shadow foreign policy on behalf of the president, and he also wanted to get her out of the way because she was standing in the way of that. And so all these people found each other. The crooked Ukrainians, Giuliani and his associates, they found common cause in getting rid of a patriotic American diplomat.
What's so interesting is that official U.S. policy in Ukraine was an anti-corruption effort, and it seems like from everybody I've talked to about this ambassador is that she actually was executing an anti-corruption policy, which is what earned her the ire of some of these Ukrainian officials. So the idea that the president was really concerned about anti-corruption, it just doesn't hold water.
It doesn't. No, she was advancing an anti-corruption policy, and there were at least a dozen parts of that, all kinds of reforms that she and the State Department were urging the Ukrainians to take to their anti-corruption court, to strengthen all their institutions that were fighting corruption, to fire another crooked prosecutor who's still in place in Ukraine. And meanwhile, yeah, the president says now that, oh, we held up this aid because we were concerned about corruption. Problem with that is that they never actually then told the Ukrainians, here are the 3 or 5 or 10 steps that you need to take to clean up your corruption act to get the aid. All they said was investigate Joe Biden and confirm some wacky conspiracy theory about what happened in 2016. So it totally doesn't hold water.
Is it clear to you, I mean, and again, maybe, I don't know if she spoke to this or if you know or don't know, but is it clear about Rudy Giuliani's motives in all this? Obviously, he's working in the behest of the president as the president's attorney. He also, in many places, seems to have financial dealings with well, we know these 2 people who are now under arrest. Is it known if he had financial dealings in Ukraine or financial connections, financial interests?
He certainly seems to have had financial interests in Ukraine, and I think there's probably much more that we can learn about that. I think he probably had multiple motivations, but the most important one from our point of view is that he was purporting to represent the President of the United States in a shadow foreign policy that completely contradicted the official foreign policy of the United States, which was fighting corruption and supporting Ukraine in defending their territory against Russia.
The fact that the White House and State Department, according to 3 Democratic committee chairs, directed Yovanovitch not to appear today, but she complied anyway with a last-minute subpoena. Is that the way that the House committee work around the administration? Is that how they're trying to block witnesses? And I know you said this sends a message. Do you think her testimony encourages other career officers, career employees, that they too can come forward?
Anderson, I believe it does. I think she is setting an example of courage and integrity under great pressure. And, and that example is if there is a legally binding subpoena, then you have a duty to show up. We are a rule of law country. And I think one of the great things about Ambassador Yovanovitch, she spent 30 years representing us around the world, fighting for the rule of law. And she came back home, and she is abiding by the rule of law right here in the United States. And I think there are a lot of folks at the State Department, the NSC, throughout the U.S. government who will see this as an example, a good example to follow. It can be done.
And just finally, I'm not sure, you may have still been in the meeting. You may not have heard the president's latest comments, but the president said that he doesn't really know her. He doesn't know her, that maybe she's a great woman, but that the Ukrainian president in his phone conversation said negative things about her, which is just a complete lie. We know from the transcript it was President Trump, saying bad things about her. I guess that shouldn't come as a surprise that he's lying in just 5 sentences, but it just strikes me as amazing that he lies about stuff that we can read in a transcript that's not even a complete transcript.
Every day he makes it harder for his defenders to defend him. And I think, this is getting harder for some of my Republican colleagues who see this chaos, who see an indefensible policy, and whatever they're telling you publicly, I know that a lot of them are privately thinking, do I want to defend this for another 6 years?
Well, Congressman Tom Malinowski, appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.